About 60 days ago, I stopped posting completely. There were no more videos, no stories. It was nothing. And it wasn't some planned detox or some strategic break that I took. I just got deep into client work, deep into the business. And a week slipped by, and then another week passed. And some point, I started thinking, what if I just keep going? What if I let it go and just not deal with social media for a bit? And this is what happened to the business. Now, first of all, it completely changed the way that I think about content, okay? But not in some dramatic way. So I want to be careful here because this isn't going to land where you might think it's going to land. But the hope is that this becomes very specific and very actionable for you. And I'm going to be honest about what was going through my head during those 60 days because a lot of you are probably carrying some version of the same thing right now. There's this quiet belief, and I had it deeply, that the content is what keeps the pipeline alive. Like you stop posting and the leads slow down. You stop showing up and people forget you exist. And it starts to feel like this treadmill you can never really step off. Because the second you do, everything is going to slow down with it. And that's such a stressful place to run a business from, by the way. Like every week you don't post feels like a week you're falling behind. And there's this low grade anxiety that just kind of sits with you. Now, before I go further, some of you need to be posting. Some of you need the reach. Some of you, like, people just don't know you exist. So this isn't going to work for you. But for me in my business, after many, many years, this is what I needed. So some of you need to hear this. And I remember there was a specific stretch during this time. It was maybe 3 weeks in where I'd wake up and the first thing my brain would do is check the numbers. It would go through the inquiries and see how things were changing and slowing down and wondering what was going on, if anything. And then I realized that the storm that I kept thinking was going to hit never actually hit. And yeah, there were those questions sitting in the back of my head the whole time, right? Like, what's going to happen to the pipeline? Is revenue going to take a hit? And are the right people going to move on and forget that I existed or not know that I exist? But for me, the pipeline didn't dry up. Inquiries were still coming in. Projects still moved forward. Revenue didn't take the hit I was genuinely bracing for. Not even close to what I was expecting. And I want to be careful here because I don't want this to become one of those posting doesn't matter, do whatever you want videos. That's not what I actually believe, and it's not what the 60 days showed me. The thing I actually learned is more interesting than that. What happened is I could see clearly for maybe the first time where my clients were actually coming from. And it was so different from where I had assumed they were coming from. When you're in the rhythm of posting consistently, it's really hard to trace anything. You're putting out content, leads are coming in, and your brain just connects those two things because they're happening at the same time. Content goes out, clients come in, and so your mind just draws that line, but the post and the client aren't necessarily as related as you think they are. When I stopped posting and things got quiet, it gave me this visibility I didn't have before. I could actually follow the path back and see where the work was really coming from. The biggest source for me was referrals. People who had worked with me before or who knew someone who had, not because they'd seen something I posted last week, but it's because someone they trust said to them, hey, you should talk to Austin about this. And I think we underestimate referrals in a pretty significant way because referrals don't care if you posted yesterday. They care about the experience you created 6 months ago or the value that you gave them a year ago or 3 years ago. Someone remembered how the project went. Someone remembered how they felt at the end of working together. And that is what mattered more than anything. And the best part is then they pass that along. And then they worked with you and then they passed it along. And that compounding interest in your business is huge. So I want you to focus on that. And the second source where people were finding us was search. People finding us through Google, through our website, through content we'd put out months or even years ago that's still just sitting there, still getting found, still answering a question someone is typing into search. And that content has a completely different lifespan than a social post. A social post honestly disappears in about 48 hours. Content that lives on your website or ranks on Google keeps working long after you stopped thinking about it. And the third one, this one genuinely surprised me, was past clients coming back. People I'd worked with before who had a new project who just picked up the phone and reached out, not because they saw something in their feed, because the work was good and they hadn't forgotten it. When I could actually trace where things were coming from, those three were doing the real work, and none of them required me to post something this week. None of them would have stopped if I had taken another 60 days off. So that raised a question I've been sitting with ever since. And I want to ask it directly because I think it matters. If the clients aren't primarily coming from consistent posting, why do so many of us treat posting like it's the whole engine? Why does it feel so high stakes every single week and then we miss one? And the honest answer, at least for me, is that posting feels like doing something. It creates a sense of momentum, of showing up, of being in the game. And when you're not doing it, there's this feeling that you're falling behind. And even when the actual business is fine, it's action that feels productive, even when you can't directly trace it to a result, which that all made me sit with a harder question. Am I posting for result, or am I posting because I'm afraid of what happens if I stop? And I genuinely can't answer that for you because I don't know your business. But for some people, content really is the primary driver. And so again, keep posting, do more. You might have to. And it really works. But for a lot of small business owners I talk to, the content feels much more load bearing than it actually is. And the gap, there is a gap there, is between how essential it feels and how essential it actually is. So you need to look at it. But I want to be clear about what I'm not saying, because I think this kind of video can go sideways, right? Like you could easily take one half of this. I'm not saying stop. I'm not saying content doesn't matter. I genuinely believe showing up with useful, honest content is one of the best long-term plays a small business owner can make. Obviously, I believe it because I'm doing this. But what I'm saying is that content's job might be different from what you think. It might not be the thing that drives this week's clients. It might be the thing that builds trust over time. And that keeps you warm with an audience. That means when someone hears your name or gets referred to you, they already kind of know who you are before they even reach out. That's a real and valuable thing. And we see it all across socials. But it's different value proposition than just post on Tuesday, get an inquiry by Friday. And I think a lot of us are running our business assuming and hoping that that's going to happen. But when you understand what the content is actually doing for you versus what you're hoping that it's doing for you, you can make smarter decisions about it. You can create from a place of intention instead of obligation. You can take a week off without low-grade panic sitting in your chest, right? Like you can put real energy into the referral relationships, the repeat client experience, the things that are actually compounding, and let the content do the specific job it's genuinely good at. The 60 days taught me that. And if I'm being totally honest, I think I create better content now because of it, because I'm not doing it from anxiety. I have to post something, right? Like I'm doing it when I actually have something worth saying and things that I want to share, which hopefully is what this is. So if something in here landed, or if you've started thinking about where your clients are actually coming from, drop it in the comments. I want to hear, I want to read all about it. And remember to enjoy the journey, my friend.